Hello, everybody, and welcome. All thanks to LD Mobile. This is NBL Overtime. A lot going on, a lot of talk. Social media is a buzz. We're going to get to Little Last Dance in a moment. An Adelaide coach, we think we might know who it will be, but yet to be officially announced. Are we going to see and announce a retirement of one of the all-time legends of the NBL? Plenty more to get into. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. And a man who laced up the sneakers this morning and hit the pavement, old school preseason style. Homicide, my man, the Mr. Marathon guy. What's up?
Man, everything is up. My energy's up. I'm feeling really good. We watched greatness yesterday. It was incredible, and not too many people can get me up 6 a.m. Sabrina's mad because she's not getting any sleep. You know, I was just woke up with so much jitters. You know, I felt like I was training my first day for training camp to play next season. Like, that's what it was when – you know, you watch greatness. Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, oh my God. That was absolutely incredible to watch. A young Michael Jordan, the baby face. The guy looked like he looked like a track runner. You know what I mean? A marathon runner. Super thin, extremely athletic. He was just, it was just incredible to watch.
Now, I don't mean any physical similarities here, but our Jerry Krause was, of course, Liam Santamaria, who I have pegged for many a year to be a GM of an NBL club at some point in the future. How you doing, big fella?
You think I would become as hated as Jerry Krause?
Oh, my
No,
God.
I don't think so. I also think you got a better vertical leap than what Jerry did.
Who was the biggest loser out of the first couple of episodes of The Last Dance? Was it Jerry Krause or Scottie Pippen's agent?
Scottie Pippen's agent.
You know,
7 years.
I'm gonna say this, and I agree with, who was his representation, right? But you're coming out of an NAIA school. Mm-hmm. You don't have a big name, although you did well. For all we know, they just took a dice roll like, I think this is a diamond in the rough. Let's grab him. Coming from small town in Arkansas, 11 siblings, mom and dad. Obviously, they're going to be making little enough. You got 12 kids. I don't care how much money you got. Mm-hmm. You live in check to check with 12 kids. So on top of that, 2 of them out of the 12, were paralyzed in a wheelchair. Mm. So if you are getting an offer, 7 years, $18 million, one, you ain't never seen no money like that before, been in a position like that. 2, you're thinking of financial freedom. I'm able to support and help my whole family. I'm not passing this deal down because it gives me security. Nobody knows how great a player's going to be when they get drafted outside of the number 1 and the number 2 pick.
And
nobody knows this.
But just on that, he was 3 years into his career by now. This wasn't his rookie deal was nearing end. So this is 91. He'd already, I don't think he was the second best player in the world, as some people suggested he was a couple of years later, but he'd already been around for a little while. I've known, they hated Jerry Krause. I understand all that. But his management, in particular, since Larry Johnson got about $100 million for 7 years, 12 months later, I think, also keep in mind, he earned $109 million from his salary over the whole of his NBA career. So I believe that Scottie Pippen's doing okay today.
I mean, that still ain't enough for me, though. He should have been at least 100 more. 6 championships. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
I don't win those championships if it's not for him, the best two-way player in the NBA. You know what I mean? There's no way those 6 banners are hanging up. He deserves way more than that. But, again, we can talk about this all day. At the end of the day, that's why your agent, your representation and management is so important, vital.
I always love when much hyped things or people live up to that and even go beyond it. You think about like LeBron James coming in to start his career. He's the chosen one. He's going to be the next great, and he lives up to that and goes beyond it. Scottie Hobson coming into the NBL this year. He's going to be the best player in the league, and he lives up to being that guy. This documentary for me exceeded the hype, which is incredible because it was, it's expected to be great. And I love for me, when you hear a song from 20 years ago that you used to love and you can't help but sing along, when I hear the little audio clips that were in Come Fly With Me, I just can't help but speak along, and just tapping back into that nostalgia, those feelings of being a kid and being inspired by that man, that team, and everything that was going on at that time. And the little tidbits, like you say, Corey, going back and seeing that footage of him, like, especially like as a rookie, you know, that story about it being his third game, that game against the Bucks, stepping up, getting the win. I can't wait for the next bunch of episodes.
Should have seen the size of the cigar I smoked last night after the last dance. It took me like 7 hours. I coughed through the night, but it inspired me. Just quickly, and we're going to relate it to Last Dance and NBL in a moment. I had a chat with Chris Anstey last night for my podcast, and he told a story, and you boys might know this. Jerry Krause came to Australia to watch him play for the Magic and told Chris Anstey that he would be a first-round draft pick. If he was still on the board when the Bulls were ready to go, he would be a Chicago Bull. And that's why Chris Anstey, he used it as a security blanket, but he knew he was going to be a first-rounder because Jerry Krause had already promised him. So huge what if, and there's so many in sport. But that is an interesting one because his Last Dance team could have featured, in fact, 2 Aussies and the Dallas Mavericks, or the Portland Trailblazers as it was at the time, put their hand up and taken the big man.
How awesome would that have been? You know, shout out to Chris Anstey. What type of confidence are you taking going into the rest of your season in Australia, knowing you just had a conversation with Jerry Krause and he's co-signing and saying, if you're available, we're taking it.
All right, hashtag NBL Overtime, hashtag Last Dance to get involved. Just quickly, guess, Liam, before I drop this.
I just love the big names that all of a sudden pop up on the documentary. You know, like we're learning about Scotty at Central Arkansas, and then boom, Bill Clinton's on the screen, just giving his perspective. We don't need a lot from you, Mr. Clinton. Just give us a quick soundbite, and we'll drop you in.
Well, 2 former presidents in the first 2 eps gives a bit of an indication. Well, actually, sorry, of course, Barack was former Chicago resident, but you sort of
it was like resident. Like, why wasn't it president at the time?
I only
you know what I mean? It's like the P, whoever was a typo. Like, where's the P?
I think he will pop up later. I think they might have been worried that people may not know that he's from Chicago, but it was a great source of amusement. All right, it got me thinking, as everyone at NBL headquarters and all NBL fans probably are, at NBL, jump on right now, hashtag NBL Overtime, hashtag Last Dance. What NBL Last Dance doco would you like to see from a club, from a team, from a franchise over the course of NBL history? And Homicide, I'm going to start with you.
Come on, man. My Liam voice. Come on, man. The Wildcats, baby. I want to see that.
Which one? Which year?
I mean, I want to see the last few years since Bryce Cotton joined. That's what I want to see.
Love it.
Because it may be the last dance, baby.
True.
Just may be the last dance.
That was going to be one of my nominees. I'd like to see the Last Dance if a film crew had complete access to their Perth should get a 3 import championship season.
Ooh, yeah, that would be good.
Real story to come out.
Gotcha.
The real story to come out about the guy that we're going to bring in.
Who was that?
A guy.
Oh, wait a minute. They were going to bring a guy in.
Oh, Liam has hinted on the show. In fact, no, I take that back. Liam has told us on the show that we're going to bring in, I believe, a familiar face. I might be paraphrasing here, but it was words to that extent. I think it's time now just to drop that name.
Well, let's revisit this.
Okay.
But I've got a couple of other nominations.
Let's hear it.
And this documentary kind of exists already with the work that I think Lennon Cooper had done with Titletown and the like. But that 1986 Adelaide Championship run that we did rewind of last week, and the inside story of Ken Cole and what happened in that hotel room and the superstars that were on that team, you know, Al Green and I reckon crossing paths with Leroy, having played with Leroy a couple of years earlier at the Bearcats, that would be awesome to delve really deep into that run.
2008 South Dragons.
Ooh.
And obviously, you know, Joe Ingles, Gibbo, and there was a grand final, 5-game grand final series against the Tigers. So, of course, that Melbourne rivalry. And not necessarily just how the season went that ended in lifting the trophy. But the very fact is that 2 months later, they no longer existed. They were gone from the competition. So the fact is that obviously so much of that sort of, the financial ramifications of certain things. So not necessarily just what was happening on court with a huge amount of NBL superstars and legends who have gone on to have bigger and better careers either here in Australia or overseas, but also what happened from the moment the partying finished to trying to get these guys back together to have a crack and retain their title, and the fact that in the end they're ultimately unable to do it. I think it'd be a very interesting documentary for a number of reasons.
09.
09 was it? My apologies. I keep getting I got
09. 09.
7 was the Bullets, 8 was the Tigers, 09 was the Dragons. Either way, you got me in the end, Liam. But, for the South Dragons fans, they probably don't care what year it was either, just the fact that they won the whole thing. All right. You mentioned it might be the last dance for Perth Wildcats. Tweet suggesting it might be the last dance for Damian Martin. Of course, it had been a continual conversation at different points over NBL 20, whether this would be the last year we'd see Damian Martin dominate the hardwood and what has been an illustrious career. It has somewhat been complicated by the fact that we're in a situation we are in. Perth are suggesting that right now it's just rumour and innuendo, and of course it's sometimes easy to make that link in this type of situation when there is so much sort of uncertainty going forward. But there's no doubt there will be a singlet from the rafters at some point, and probably a statue at some point as well around RAC Arena. But it is a continual conversation. It sits with Damian Martin. I'm going to start with you, Homicide, because you went up against him. What do you make of the talk?
There needs to be a statue outside of RAC Arena for Damian Martin. 6-time champion, 6-time defensive player of the year. He may be the greatest Wildcat ever. That's an incredible feat. 6-time defensive player of the year. For me, I think he was the benchmark for import point guards in this league. You think you're good? Let's see what you do against Damian Martin. That's the benchmark. He set the tone. Everything he's about, his leadership, his character, how he carries himself, an incredible family man. Everything he is about embodies what a Perth Wildcat is. Had an opportunity to represent his country. I sat down and broke bread with him a couple of times. And though we had to go against each other in battle, which every time we played against each other was a battle, he was just a great person. In wins and losses, you're going to get the same. He would be there, during my times now, with the suit and the microphone in my hand. He was easy to talk to, whether they won or lost. They won well or sucked. He was giving you the same consistent effort and energy. My hat goes off to him. He will be a Hall of Famer, we know, an NBL Hall of Fame and NBL great. Nothing but love for Damian Martin.
Do you remember your first time going up against him? What are your recollections?
Yeah. My first time going up against him, obviously coming in, the bravado and the swagger that I played with, I would just try to instill fear just stepping on the court on my opponent. And he was young, I posted a photo about a week or two ago with he and I. He was with the West Sydney Razorbacks. Rob Bever was the coach. I'm talking about this was just a baby. He was just ripped up the same way, and his energy was up. Can you imagine a baby face Damian Martin, that type of energy he's coming with? I was like, yo, who's this kid? All right, I'm going to have to go real hard tonight because he's defending me really hard. So, he made me play harder. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about. That was the competitor and the competitive spirit he was. You know what I mean? He had in him and how he approached the game, regardless of import, whatever import you were, or local. He's approaching the game the same way. Nothing but love.
And a guy that had that, you talk about instilling fear. I mean, he instilled fear at the other end of the floor.
Oh, you better believe it. I knew it. Look, let me tell you something. Whatever amount of points I scored, I knew the night before, the week before, the round before. Listen to me. End this game quick, whoever you play in the round before, because you're going to need your rest to play against Perth. Every time you play against Perth, the next day, I'm in the ice tub. I am in the ice tub because physically and mentally, it wore you down. You had to be ready to play because you knew this ain't going to be no walk in the park against Damian Martin. For sure. For sure.
Lee and Perth are talking about the fact that they haven't heard anything official, and we'll get to Players Teller and NBL 21 in a moment. But are you hearing anything?
Look, it's my expectation that he's gonna make an announcement at some time soon. Mm-hmm. There's obviously, like everybody, he's looking at the landscape. The agreement has been put in place with the players. That changes things for the upcoming season. He's entering free agency. He signed a 1-year deal after they won the championship last year, when his good mate Jesse Wagstaff, who's at a not too dissimilar stage of his career, signed a 2-year deal. That would have been a possibility, an opportunity for Damo as well. But he wanted to be able to reassess things at the end of each year. This man played through a partially torn Achilles to finish off last season, to go the distance and to win that title. You saw Bryce Cotton, when it was announced that they were the champions, make his way past the entire team to come and embrace Damo. And it was partly because he thinks and he knew that this was a possibility, that we would arrive at this point where he's likely to announce his retirement. But also he knew what he had done to try to get that team over the line. And it just adds to the mythology of the toughness and the leader that is Damian Martin. I'm expecting that to come, but we wait to see how that plays out. When I think of Damo, I think of the 2016 championship for the Wildcats over the New Zealand Breakers. And that was the year when he won finals MVP, hardly scoring a bucket.
I don't think he scored in the decider, did he?
He what?
I don't think he scored in the deciding game.
Right, but he had Cedric Jackson on lock. And said at that point, he was the guy. He was the guy. I mean, he had he'd taken the Breakers to the championship over the Taipans the year before, 3-3 against Scotty Wilbekin, and he got the Breakers back into the championship series. But Martin had him on lock, and that was the key to that series. And his coaches Bevo and then Trevor Gleeson have spoken about his ability to impact games and win games without the ball. That series to me was the perfect example of that.
You mentioned, Liam, the agreement. You mentioned the uncertainty, and of course we continue to talk about it. Just before we go into that, are we all in agreement? We don't see a great deal of statues erected of NBL players. Are we all in agreement that RAC Arena should have one out the front of Damian Martin?
100%.
Good. I don't think we'll see any argument from anyone.
Well, I mean, you're going to put a statue of Damian Martin and not Ricky Grace?
Well, maybe they'll do a Walk of Legends. I'm just suggesting that there should be a statue.
There's two things that need to happen of NBL players. What's that? Go ahead.
I said there should be more statues of NBL players, I think, around the country. So I'm not saying
there's
Damian
two things
Martin
that need to happen before a statue with Damo.
Hit me.
They got to name the award after him for one. Let's get that done.
True. That's true.
And 2, raise his jersey to the ceilings. And while we're at it, let's put Reddige's up there as well.
Hey, for sure, they better put Redditch up there.
What's taking so long?
I don't know, man. How many years do you need to be removed from the game to get your singlet up in the Raptors?
None.
That's the question.
None. I legitimately think if you had an impact, and I'm not even disputing Redditch, but I'm saying with Damian Martin, if he retires, round 1, first home game, RAC Arena, the singlet goes up.
No. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Why?
Because you skip Redditch. Redditch got 5, right?
I'm not saying Redditch's banner will put it up there. I'm simply using the point that there shouldn't be an elapsed period of time if the player, man or woman, is going to have their singlet raised to the banner at some point. I don't know why occasionally we seem to wait years occasionally for these things to happen. Damian Martin retires. His singlet should be hanging above the court at RAC Arena. It should be game 1 next year. Sean Redditch should be retired as well. I'm not arguing that point. Throw that up at the same time. But my point is, I don't know why we have to wait time if they are legitimately the legends that they are. And I think Damian Martin fits that perfectly. And you could argue Sean Redditch as well.
I agree. I mean, Kobe's 8-24 went up. When did it go up? It went up quick, didn't it?
It went up the following season.
Yeah, the following season, right?
Following season.
Fair enough.
Or you could just be like Jordan and raise it up and rip it down and go and win another 3 titles. All right, let's talk about – yes.
You make a good point about statues. Where's the Andrew Gay statue in Melbourne?
Yeah, I live right across the road from the MCG, and I spend a lot of time in isolation with exercise, running or walking
There's
around
a lot
the
of
MCG.
statues out there, aren't there?
There's a lot of statues. And
I'm like, wait a minute.
This crossed my mind last week. And it's not just for people who live in Melbourne and would know that it's not just, cricket or, of course, AFL players, and there are Olympians there as well. And I understand the significance with a lot of them playing within the MCG.
Right. Or running there.
Or running, whatever it might be with the Olympics in 1956. But that is a precinct that is dominated by athletes of all different sports. We've got obviously Rod Laver and Hisense Arena and Amy Park. There's 4 or 5 different places there. There's no doubt at Andrew Gay's, if it's not right on the outskirts of the MCG like the other 12 or so statues, it should be outside Hisense. It should be there somewhere. This is a guy who went to 5 Olympic Games and carried the flag for crying out loud. And this argument is probably not even an NBL argument. It's probably a legend of Australian sport argument when it comes to Andrew Gay's more than...
Why are they fronting on my man Gaze? Why are they fronting on my man Gaze?
I don't know. He should be there. No doubt about it. All right.
Who did Gaze piss off? Wait a minute. We can't just skip by. Okay. Who did Andrew Gaze piss off for him to not have a Gaze?
How does Andrew Gaze doesn't piss anyone off?
That's what I'm saying. So who's hating on my man Gaze?
I don't think he's pissed anyone off. I just think it's a situation where because he's not automatically linked to the MCG through playing and doing his stuff in there, I think that sometimes it gets overlooked just a little bit.
Basketball Australia.
They hating on my man. Yo.
You got to get a movie.
I agree. All right, let's get to the agreement. That was announced late last week, and this is heading towards NBL 21. Keeping in mind, it'll be reviewed within 3 months. Of course, it's an ever-changing, not just in a professional sporting sense, but in a day-by-day life sense for everybody. But this is the agreement that was announced last week. Players have agreed to tiered reductions in salaries ranging from 27.5% for players earning between $80,000 and $99,000, and up to 50% for players earning to over $200,000. Salaries for players earning under $79,000 will revert to the minimum salary, which is capped at just under $59,000. Development players' salaries will remain unchanged, which is $17,000 currently. Players will be able to opt out of their contract for NBL 21 for 2 weeks from the beginning of the agreement, with their NBL rights to be held by their respective clubs. And rosters will be reduced to 10 players per team, with a maximum of 2 imports plus a next star where applicable. As I said, it'll be reviewed in 3 months' time. All right, I'm going to start with you, Liam Santamaria. Can you give us any extra, because there's some questions in particular on social media about the opting out around Bryce Cotton, possibly with Casper Ware, 2 of the higher paid imports in NBL 20. Can you give us any clarification on if, 1, they are legitimately thinking about it, and 2, what that means for their future here in Australia or otherwise?
Every high-level player in the league should be legitimately thinking about it, right? I mean, that's the prudent thing to do right now. Get on the phone with your agent and say, let's talk about this. These are extraordinary times. This is an extraordinary agreement, and it's a step that has needed to be taken to bring an element of certainty to a completely uncertain situation for owners, and also to prevent players just being stood down, like so many employees are happening to them all around the world right now. So the agreement's in place. There's some tinkering that's still going on from the negotiations, I understand, behind the scenes. But yes, those guys, and we know the guys, the high-level imports that are under contract. We talk about Bryce Cotton. We've spoken about my understanding of Scott Machado having recently signed a deal with the Taipans. Casey Prather, we know he's under contract. Ty Wesley's under contract. There are some imports under contract, but also these high-level Australian players that sit in marquee spots around the league. All right, guys like Nick Kay in Perth or Mitch Creek at Southeast Melbourne. We know who they are. They have to be having these conversations. There is no news to me in Bryce Cotton is considering opting out or Casper Ware is considering opting out. Of course they are. They're having these conversations right now to say, what is the landscape? What do you understand is the situation? My understanding, you talk specifically about the opt-out rule, that what wasn't necessarily in that release, but my understanding is if a player opts out and to test their ability to find something better elsewhere in the globe, which is a whole nother conversation, and they decide to opt back in, or they come back to their club and say, hey, I want to come back. if they do come back, they come back under the terms of the contract that was originally in place. So it's not about opting out. Now I'm a free agent. Hey, you want me back? Well, let's renegotiate. You're going to have to double my salary so I get what I was going to get to begin with. No. Everybody is feeling the pain for the upcoming season. And the upcoming season only. That's what these have been put in place for, not the following year. So, yes, I think all of those guys are going to be testing the water. And, these, like I said, uncharted territories, I'm fascinated to see how it plays out over these next 2 weeks. The clock is ticking. What are these guys going to do? Are we going to see guys opting out left, right, and center? Or are we going to see guys going, I'm in Australia. Look at the numbers. Do I really want to be taking my family? Do I really want to be going to Spain or Italy or any of these places? Or do I just take the hit for this next year and buckle down in what is arguably the safest place in the world right now? And the one other point I think is interesting to make is different guys have different situations in terms of their contract. So if this coming year is the final year of your deal, like it is for, say, Nick Kay or Bryce Cotton, well, those guys are in a little bit of a different situation to a guy who has this year and another year. And maybe that last year, his numbers have been back-ended on that contract, and his pay will be right up. So everybody's throwing all these different elements of it up in the air, and I can't wait to see where it all lands.
So just to clarify before I let you loose, Homicide, you can't, if you're a Bryce Cotton or a Casper Ware, and use those two players, or a K, high-profile guys who, of course, are championship-winning superstars, you can't opt out and another club can't come and get you.
Another NBL club?
Another NBL club?
No.
No. So the only way, if you opt out that you play in the NBL in 21, is if you sign you back with the club, which is original contract.
Well, you
right?
you just slide back into the deal that previously existed. And then the other thing is that if you want to talk about risk, say Mitch Creek says, you know what, 50%, I can't do it. I'm going to try my hand, see what I can get in Europe. Well, all of a sudden, the marquee spot that he's taking up at Southeast Melbourne is free for them to utilize. And they say, Jock Landale or Ryan Brokoff, we're in a different position here now than we were when we last talked.
And that's the risk of opting out. Like, obviously, when social media is a buzz talking about these players, it's like, oh, they can opt out. There's no risk. Now, it's unlikely the Wildcats or even Southeast Melbourne Phoenix or Sydney would go and just fill one of their positions the next day. But it does give the opportunity slightly for the club to go in a different direction in a fairly fast way. And maybe you do miss out because, as you touch on, we are, of course, battling day by day, but we do seem to be in a hell of a lot safer position than a lot of countries right around the world, professional basketballers or otherwise. Homicide, what do you make of it?
Interesting times we're living in. It is what it is. At the end of the day, this is a league that's privately funded. There's no government backing this league or putting up money. There's no big TV rights deal that's cutting a serious check. So, this is a serious hit. My question is, first, before I go further into it, what does a player lose out on the salary-wise, percentage-wise, if you make 100 to 200K? Doesn't say in it.
It doesn't say in the release, Liam. Do you know?
Yeah. There's tiers. He
knows everything, man.
Okay,
there's tiers. And the percentage gradually goes down. So there's a tier for like you earn 180 to 199, and it's like a little bit under, say, 45%.
Yeah.
And then it's 160 to 179, and so on and so forth.
So yeah, just to back over that, 27.5% from 80 to 99, and then from 99 to 200, it'll be from 27.5 to 50 in different ratios on the way.
And again, the key here is that people are going to continue to get a paycheck. Now, it's not going to be it's not the same. It's a salary reduction, of course, but these guys aren't being stood down, which I think is an important point to make.
Right. Totally. I mean, there's some countries that are not going to have a professional league next season. You're at least still working. The league is still going to be world class. It's recognized as one of the best leagues in the world, one of the safest countries to be in. I am still here because I know the safety that it's safe here. more than it is in New York. New York is that's a whole nother story. New York's a mess right now, as well as America. So it is safe here. So there's a lot of different things you have to look into and consider making the move. Plus, it's still early, so we don't know what this whole thing is going to look like in 2 months as far as safety is concerned. So, safety and health should be the biggest factor, you putting yourself in as well as your family. And you got to think about this. There's a million other ball players that are in the same situation. So everybody can't be like, yo, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to Europe. Well, what about the European imports? Where do you fall on the totem pole? You know what I mean? Like, you got to think of it like that. Everybody's playing ball. Oh, screw Europe. I'm going to go to Asia. Well, how many people you think going to Asia as well? Thinking the same thing as you. It's a numbers game. You know what I mean? It's a rat race especially import. You know what I mean? Like, it's a rat race. So you still got to look at, okay, where am I valued at more? Do I take a cut here and still be in a position to win and put up numbers and be that guy? And then next season, go where I feel, I can make up what I lost the year before. Or maybe stay here, you know what I mean? And the next season, you can make back. I mean, it's all a risk. You have to consider all of these things. But at the end of the day, it's safe as hell here.
Corey, let's look at a case study. What do you do if you're Scott Machado, hard work boy, and you look and you've stayed in Cairns? As I said, my understanding, a new 2-year deal in place, big offer from the Taipans because they want to keep this guy around. And he has looked across the Pacific and seen the situation in New York City, seen the situation in Brazil, and he's like, I'm staying here in far North Queensland. I feel safe here. And then this agreement is put in place. What do you do if you're him in this situation?
I'll probably just say, look, I'll take the deal. I'll take this cut, but we're going to make this up on the back end. Straight like that. I'm getting mines.
You see, that's
I just put on. We're going to restructure out of this deal. It's on you what you want to do at that point. That's what I'm going to do because he got leverage right now.
That'll be the interesting thing because you're right. If they opt out, if they have got multi-year like Scott Machado, as you touched on just there, they opt out. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going to stay for the year and then restructure after 1 year's time. Now, it might only be a 1 year deal. It might be 2 year, might be multi-year, whatever after that. But I think you're right. You mentioned it. Agents, players right now will be furiously having conversations over Zoom. There'll be text messages, emails flying around trying to work out the best way to not just attack NBL 21, but also to set up. Chris Golding's we've spoken a lot about Chris Golding out of contract. Maybe the European thing seemed to be somewhat real before this whole thing hit. And now he's like, well, geez, I got Tassie still that we don't really know about. Do I just take the 1 year now, knowing, then get and there's a lot of those players in the league. And Marquis are obviously a dime a dozen, and we'll see how it all plays out. It is interesting times, and this is, what we speak about last dance docos. I wouldn't mind having, just a little bit of spyware on some of these guys' computers and the Zoom meetings these guys are having because it would be fascinating viewing.
Well, yeah, look, we're not going to have the same rosters. We're not going to have all the same players moving forward. Some guys who were in the league aren't going to be in the league. That happens every year. Obviously that's going to happen for different reasons, probably this time around. But it's a fascinating moment because here we are in the off season. We've got a massive amount of uncertainty what the league's going to look like next year, how it's all going to play out. We don't know when it's going to start or how it's going to be. What we do know is the clock is ticking on this decision. The countdown is on.
I'll tell you what, the 2 import rule, we spoke about this, and this might be, it's a new normal in all walks of life. And I'd like to see the NBL go back, which they are for NBL 21 for these interesting times. I'd like to see the 2 imports stay. I think there's more opportunities. Obviously, more franchises will come in, at least one in the next couple of years. But we're seeing a bigger depth of Australian talent right now. And I think the 2 imports, in particular of the Next Stars program, and that's a different conversation with where we sit right now. But the fact is that I like the 2 imports and allowing these young Australians or Kiwi kids to get more of an opportunity, come back from college, play some playing time and see the league develop from there. I think a new normal should be 2 imports going forward.
I'm going to say this right here. There's somebody, he know who he is, there's somebody right now contemplating retirement. This particular individual is 0-2. If bold cap, big cap, if the baddest man in the land departs and the 6-time defensive player of the year retires, I guarantee you he won't retire, because that's the only way he'd win a championship. Let's watch this space and see how this plays out. You know who I'm talking to.
Andrew Bogut did speak on the Offsiders on Sunday and said that it's an ongoing process in his own mind.
Yeah, right. It ain't ongoing if the baddest man in the land leaves and the defensive player of the year 6-time retires. I guarantee you he's going to be like, I'll just give it another run because he know then he going to win it. Then he'll win. Then that AAU defense will work because it's only one team they could not beat with it. Then they'll run the table.
Hey,
I'm on to you.
Firstly,
whatever gets it done. Hey, whatever gets Andrew Bogut back on the floor, I'm good for it.
Yeah, put an asterisk next to that one.
Mid-May was a timeline that I think he suggested on the weekend.
Put an asterisk next to that.
I thought we were going to get through the show without this, but we got there.
Vibes. You know who I'm talking to.
Well, I said his name, so yes. Let's get to Connor Henry.
I'm looking at him. You tweeted something the other day, but I felt good. So I didn't feel like responding, you know. But I'm here. I see what's going on.
Liam?
I just find it interesting. There are all kinds of complicating factors to this situation and the decision-making. Where guys currently are, we've talked about this on the show before, big factor. Ty Wesley's on the books for Southeast Melbourne next year, but he's not in the country. Is he going to be able to get back in? Casper Ware's making these decisions and think of mulling these things over, but he's not in the country. Whereas a guy like Scott Machado, a guy like Bryce Cotton, they are. That's a big factor in looking at this whole situation.
And we've touched on this before. Like Perth Wildcats, you make your own luck when you're as good as an organisation on and off the court as they are. Two of their imports, I'm not sure about Tariko White, but two of their imports still are in this country. So with the 2 import rule, and we might see, you're right, maybe we won't have people being able to get back into Australia in time or at all. Perth can go, well, you know what, we're just going to wind it back, and Cotton and Plumlee have come to terms, and you know what, we don't change a thing. While other clubs are going to have to find American-based players, maybe a lower-level player that had been here the last couple of years who are still in the country for whatever reason, and boost them up to fill their roster out.
Well, you say that, yeah, but Miles Plumlee technically is going to enter free agency. He's not under contract for next season at this point.
That's true, but he's already played the Perth Wildcats. I'm not saying he can't end up at another club, but he's got the relationship. He's got a championship, and I think the conversation...
Doesn't his girl live across the other side of the country?
I wouldn't have a clue. Does she?
Yo, you got to remember, man, girlfriends are one thing. Wives are different.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, girlfriends don't hold that much weight to determine where you're going to play your playing career. I got to go make this bread. Wife different.
He's got to go make that bread?
I'm saying, usually, if you have a girlfriend, she got to understand. A wife is different. That's permanent more than a girlfriend is. You know what I mean? So there's a totem pole. We're not putting girlfriends and wives in the same boat. That ain't the case. You know what I'm saying? So if he got to go somewhere and make a play, he's out. Or if she's somewhere else and he's here, he's not just going, my girlfriend's away, so I'm not going to sign here. I'm going to play. Dudes just ball players first, man.
Yeah, but she's the reason why he's even in the country.
So where is she right now?
I think she's in Queensland.
Oh, so she's fine. I mean, as long as she's in the country, cool. I thought you meant she's like out of the country somewhere else. No, it's fine.
I'll be honest, something I didn't think we'd be discussing was Miles Plumlee's geographical location of his girlfriend, but I see the point.
Shout out to Miles, yo.
Connor Henry, yet again, we spoke a little earlier about the fact that there's been a lot of speculation around Damian Martin, not yet confirmed. Same as Connor Henry as the coach at Adelaide 36ers. You flagged it last week, Liam, as you gave us the list of who it will not be. You did suggest that maybe you were starting to warm up to the idea that it would be an overseas-based coach. And it looks like Conor Henry will be unveiled by Jeff Van Groningen and the crew at the Adelaide 36ers sooner rather than later, although it is still, of course, to be confirmed. What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, he certainly seems to be heating up as the likely appointee. The Adelaide 36ers remain very tight-lipped around the appointment. And my understanding is that the plan is to have their new head coach announced tomorrow morning. So we won't have to wait long to find out. And if it is, in fact, Conor Henry, like we said before, that's another guy who's not in the country right now. Has some experience with the NBL, but he's not here. And how things are going to play out in terms of borders and people are able to get in is going to be interesting. But they have obviously gone through a process of looking at a number of different possible guys, talked to some people, had good, strong talks with Adam Capehorn. But we wait to find out for sure if Conor Henry tomorrow is the man they have moving forward.
And I assume it has been alluded to, but I assume that there will be a process in place with an Australian-based assistant coach who, if, as you touched on, the travel restrictions continue to keep Conor out for however long that might be, if at all, they will be taking early amount of preseason and maybe games if that's the way NBL 21 actually turns out. Hey, Homicide, I assume you know him, or at least you played against him when he was coaching.
Yeah,
as an assistant coach or a head coach. What do you make?
I had a chance to play against Conor Henry. Scott Fisher was the coach my first season with Townsville. They coached out WA with the Perth Wildcats. Then Fisher left, and he took over the Perth Wildcats as the head coach. He's a journeyman. He played in the NBA, he played in Europe, Greece, Spain. He coached in the D League. He was coach of the year for the Mad.
He was.
Fort Wayne Mad Ants in 2014. He was assistant coach in the NBA with the Magic as well in 2016. So, he's been around the block. But I got a story about Conor Henry.
This is where I wanted you to go. This is what I tried to lead you into, and you went on his resume early.
I mean, well, congratulations if you are the coach, and good luck. Mm-hmm. But I, not by myself, and John really, and not just us, we had the Townsville Crocs came to town and eliminated the Perth Wildcats. I think, and look, I don't know much. You guys would know way more than I would. I would say that would be the biggest upset in finals history and the biggest post-game celebration in the history of basketball in this country. You know what you guys need to do? You guys showing all these great games, right? And people be like, he's talking, da-da-da-da. Why don't you put that game on NBL Rewind? Let's rewind the game. Let's what? I'm going to the 80s and the 90s, and I respect the OGs. Mm-hmm. But, sometimes I think you guys might forget that. I did play. Don't let the suit and not even tie, but the microphone fool you guys. Like, I got buckets out here. We need to show how I got down. I need to show that game against the Wildcats, man.
Well, hang on a second. I know you're obviously back in preseason training and you got a lot
I'm feeling it right now.
Let's do it this week then.
Let's do that game.
Are you free?
I'm in game mode right now. At least
are you free?
Huh?
This week.
Yo, look. Show me some kind of love.
All right.
NBL Rewind crew. Show John really hitting 10 threes. Playoff record. Bryce Cotton is second. Well, he's tied, actually. But he's the second player to do it. 10 threes. John really, 10 3-points made in Perth for the W. We upset them and sent them home.
Not really sure what our main man Guy, who organises all this out the back, has got any control over right now and what game he had picked for us. But you can brush that aside. We're going to do that game.
Let's do that, man. Like, come on.
Really went nuts. It was Conor Henry's last game as the coach of the Perth Wildcats.
Yeah, we sent him packing. He's coming back now. It's been a while, but welcome back.
Over a decade later. There you go. Hashtag NBL Rewind. That'll be Thursday, and we'll all have bleached mohawks, I assume, will we? No? All right. Okay. Anything else before we get out of here? Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. Anything?
Andrew Bogut, I know this is going to get to you, man. The only way you're going to win a championship is if that backcourt gets dismantled. So I will be here waiting to see that announcement, well, I decided to play one more season. That's exactly how it's gonna look and sound. Either way, I'm here. I'm here for the smoke.
Liam?
Corey, did you watch Did you watch Rewind last week?
I did. Listen, man, yo, that was a hell of a game. Leaping Leroy Loggins, man, Angry Al Green, chairman of the boards, Larry Sentstock,
Cal
Bruton, of course, the OG. What was the man's name? The guy that I love with the hair.
The Ratliff.
Yo! He was banging the alley-oop from Cal Bruton. Yo, that game was awesome.
Who most impressed you? Who was the guy you were like, oh boy, I didn't realize?
I mean, I think, to be honest with you, like, I heard about all of these legends, right? You know, I love that I saw Sentstock, really, to be honest with you, because, you know, usually, you know, as imports, you know what I'm saying? So I love to see, like, the Aussies that stepped up and were able to rock out and do their thing as well. So, and to come back and win that game, I didn't even, like, that front line for Adelaide was ridiculous, yo. Ridiculous, man. So I was just happy to just see the OGs just rocking out, doing their thing, man.
Talk about grown man business.
Grown man business, yo.
Something did pop up around NBL Grand Final MVPs as well, which Liam Santamaria is going to lead a movement on NBL Overtime over the next couple of months. So keep an eye out for that. Now, I've got an apology to make. I've got an apology to make.
Oh, God.
No, this is all of us.
I like the snapback.
Yeah. So obviously, of course, on the show, when I said we're going to take NBL Overtime on the road for Grand Final series, and it was smashed out by the coronavirus, and obviously we couldn't do it. But I did get a nice little care package a while ago, and I keep forgetting to say a shout out to Dan, who's the general manager. He wrote, "Hey Cam, looking forward to hosting you and the crew at NBL Overtime when you go on the road at the Cottesloe Beach Hotel." So to Dan, and I know everyone's doing it tough right now. I hope your crew in Perth are doing all right. He gave me a hat, about 5 towels. I assume we're going to have a bar tab when we get over there. So I have been meaning to give a shout out to Dan. So thank you, Dan. And
shout out to Dan. Shout out to Dan.
We'll get there at some point.
The food and the bar tab is intact when we show up.
I agree. All right, NBL podcast tomorrow. Adam Gibson, Brock Modem go one-on-one. Make sure you check that out. And hashtag NBL Rewind on Thursday. We're going to go back to Homicide and John really going nuts.
Let's go, baby.
Can't wait.
Croc Nation. The birth of Croc Nation.
What he said. See ya.
Peace.